Hi there, crafty friends. Welcome and thank you for joining me. Today, I thought we would make a Christmas card. I know we are still only in the first week of September, but it is going to be here before we know it, and I thought we should get a head start. I fell in love with these cute little nutcrackers. This is a Concord and Ninth set. It is 21 pieces, and it's pretty neat because you get different hats. There's actually 5 different hat styles that you can choose from. I really like the tall one, so that's the one we're going to be using today. And I've got everything pretty much all prepped. I just wanted to show you what I cut out. And I've got my man here, and I cut him out of white. And I also cut his head out of brown because I want him to have brown hair. I've got his hat, and then the little band, I wasn't sure if I wanted white, gold, or gold. And then his body, his boots, his face I saved for us, but I did cut out his little mustache and his eyebrows out of brown so it matches his hair. Then we've got our greenery here, some holly leaves and some berries. I had to cut this twice out of red and dark green. I cut this several times. And then we've got, this is the little feather, but I just did it out of white so it kind of matches. And then I've also got his little arm, his shoulder pieces. I cut those out of gold and out of white because I wasn't sure which one I wanted to go with. Then we've got this little die here, and this is for the little piece on his chest. And I've cut that out of white, but I also cut it out of gold, and I've left that in there because I want to use the little buttons off of there. And I made sure to leave the little pieces in there because we are going to add the little buttons right on top, and I don't want them to sink down into the die cut. I want them to be on top. So that's all ready for us. Let me get everything laid out. So I am using all Spellbinders cardstock today, and I will make sure to list everything in the description. Now for his little face here, I wanted more of a skin color. The only color that I have cardstock wise is alabaster, and I just thought that was the wrong shade. So I am just taking my Copic marker, and that is YR20, and I'm just going to color on a white piece of cardstock, which will give me the perfect skin tone. So now we just need to cut that out. All right, so we've got those pieces popped out. I am going to get rid of the mustache, the eyes, and the eyebrows. I did cut out separate little eyes out of blue. So let's start assembling. I think first we need to add his brown hair. And if you look at this die, the image on the package shows that his hair is black and his mustache and his eyes and his eyebrows and his legs are black. Well, I was trying to get away from that by using the white and then cutting a separate piece for his hair. And if you just go by the packaging, it makes assembly much easier, and you could do it rather quickly, but I, for some reason, always find a way to make things a little more time consuming. So we are going to make different colors here, and I just trimmed off that little bit of shoulder that I had on there just to make that fit on here a little bit, and we will put his coat over that so you won't see it. And everything lines up really, really well. You just have to get it positioned. So we've got his hair on there. Then we can do his coat. And like I said, I wanted to keep those little buttons in there, so I put a little bit of tape behind there. Now we can add his coat. I hope everybody is doing fabulous. And just get that lined up because that little spot down here is where his little hands will go. So we just need to make sure it's lined up well. Then we can add his face. Let's add his face. And I am actually going to put a little bit of glue right underneath here so we can add in his mustache and his eyes and his eyebrows. And that just nudges right in there. It fits perfectly. And of course, I didn't have to cut out extra pieces, but I like the dimension when I paper piece. So we'll get those added. And I know it's a little early for Christmas, but if we get started now, then we don't have to stress about it later. And I usually send out probably about 50 cards, 40 to 50. And this will start my collection of cards early. So then for his eyes, I think there's enough glue in there. I cut out little blue eyes. And we'll just place those in there. And then for his nose. These are tiny little pieces and they can require a little bit of patience, but it really does come together rather quickly. I think the hardest part is just trying to decide what color nutcracker you want to make. So all the kids are back to school. I see the school bus going up and down the street again. It's exciting. Not for them. I'm sure they're not happy. They like summer vacation, but it is nice to see. So here are his little hands, and you can distinguish those by the curve. The straight edge goes on top, and then that little curve goes in towards his body. And it's very easy to figure out. Then we can place his boots, and I wasn't sure. You know what? Let's hold off on his boots. I didn't know if I would want to do blue boots or black boots for a little bit more contrast. We can add his hat. And that just fits right in here, just like that. I really liked the taller hat. It just reminds me of a nutcracker. So now let's add the stripe to his hat. I think we're going to go with gold. And that just fits right there at the brim. And then we can add his feather. And I did do that white. And then we can straighten it. We do need to hold that down just for a second. That looks good. And see how quickly he is coming along? That is just so cute. So now let's do his little buttons here. And I am just going to add this directly to his shirt. Then I am going to pop these out. I left them in there because I did not want to lose them. Little tiny pieces like this can get lost very easily, and I didn't want that to happen. So now, because I am very particular about glue oozing out on my projects, I'm just going to put a little bit of glue right there on a scrap piece of paper and then add it to my little guy here. Just little dots where the buttons will go. And then we can quickly add those right on top. And that is so cute. Then we can add his little belt and the shoulder pieces. And that is perfect. He is so cute. So let's decide. I got his little belt a little crooked. Let's decide if we want blue or black boots. The black boots do look nice. The blue boots are matchy-matchy. Our sentiment will be black. So let's see. Let's do the blue boots. And the boots, when you cut the boots out, you get two pieces. You get the legs, and then you also get the toe. So I'm thinking I want to make that a little darker and have it stand out. So I'm going to bring in a dark blue. I've got Stargazer here. And I am going to just add some highlights to the toe of those boots so they don't get lost on the leg. and just a little bit of shading. It may not even help much, but I think it'll add a little bit of contrast. Then we can add the toe of his boot. Oh yeah, that helps. You can really tell. And that is so cute. He's done already. Wasn't that quick and easy? I love these little nutcrackers. And of course, you can do any color you want. You can do all different colors. It all came together so quickly. So let's go ahead and move on to our card base. I've got a top folding card base here. My background panel I did out of Spellbinders Sparkling Snow Embossing Folder. And this is a very large folder, so you could do 5 by 7. You could do any size in there. We are going to add that directly to our card base. I did spritz that before I ran it through my die cutting machine. And then for my 2 ovals here, the ovals were included in this die set. I just did the larger in gold foil and the smaller in white foil. I am going to directly adhere the white piece to the gold piece. So I've got foam squares behind my nutcracker, and I used the thicker foam squares. I did cut one of those into 4s for his legs. I've got foam tape behind my oval. That is so cute. I just love that. So then we can come back to our greenery here, and I did a whole bunch of the leaves here. And then we've got a whole bunch of darker holly leaves and little berries. So I think we need to add some of these pretty close to the top and pretty close to the bottom, but I'm wondering if we should do more than one, because I did do a sample and it's kind of plain with just one. So I'm wondering if we should do more than one. I think that might be cute. Let's do 2 at the top and 2 at the bottom. And I'm just going to do that kind of at an angle, so one piece will hang off, and then I can glue the other side to our panel. And then we can add some of our holly leaves and our berries. I did scatter a couple more berries all around our greenery. Now we can add our sentiment, and I just reached for an old favorite. This is not actually available. This is from Spellbinders Better Press Society. This was July of 24, and I really just like those sentiments, so I hot foiled that and I die cut it, and we are going to use a little bit of extra thick foam tape. I like this extra thick for something like this where I've already got dimension. Because we've got dimension behind our nutcracker there, we need to make sure that we add dimension behind our sentiment. And when I add my sentiment, I kind of want his legs to show a little bit and his hands. So I am going to position that right where I can still see his hands and a little bit of his white legs still show. And that is so cute. Actually, I think I did pretty good placing that. It's not too crooked. So now all we have to do is add some gems. And for that, I thought we would use gold pearls to highlight the other accents on our card. And that card is done. That came out so cute. And these little nutcrackers are just adorable. You can change it up to any color that you might like. Here I've got a green one. And this is where I only did one of the green swags. I think I like it better with the 2. And then here I've got a red guy, and this is kind of silly. So I glued the bottom one down here last night, and then I went and ate dinner, and I came back and I realized I had glued it the wrong direction and it was too late. So I just glued the other one the same way, and those are adorable. You can change them up to any color you might like. Here I've got one I did with white hair and a really light mustache and light eyebrows. And then this is the one where I followed the layering guide on the package. And this is a lot simpler because you don't have the little buttons, and I didn't inlay the mustache or the eyes. And that will go a lot quicker if you want to assemble him that way. But I really like the buttons and the inlaid mustache. It's just so cute. Thank you so much for spending time with me. I will have everything listed and linked in the description below. I will see you next time. Bye-bye.